So today we're going to talk about choosing the right AI tools for digital marketing tasks and focusing on how to generate long-form content, create visuals using AI image generation tools, and then optimize your pages for SEO. So our goals today, we're going to understand the difference between using general purpose tools like ChatGPT and DALL and Claude versus specialized AI tools. So like we talked about the last few weeks, we covered Writesonic, but we'll explore some other ones that are used pretty commonly in the digital marketing space. We're also going to look at tool requirements for specific marketing tasks. So comparing the tools across some of the common evaluation criteria, and then assess those tools based on the business outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And then look at how to generalize this to make informed decisions on selecting the best tools to balance cost, functionality, integration into your business processes, and then also being prepared for future trends. So last week we talked about how the custom GPT knowledge base works, and then how you can use that to create a personal tone and style using your past written works. So you can use that in the knowledge base, or you can process it and extract those instructions and put them as part of the custom instructions in your custom GPT. And then we also explore using the Imagine Prompt Builder GPT to design those custom instructions, and also how some techniques for extending custom GPTs from the OpenAI GPT store so that you can use that as part of a broader workflow. And then shared some of the custom GPTs that I've built for my business and for others. So why do we want to talk about choosing the right AI tools? So we've covered over the last few weeks, like there are a ton of AI tools out there. So you could spend all your time just evaluating and trying to figure out what is the right tool. So we want to try to find a more effective way to narrow down the selection criteria, but then still make sure that you're finding the right tool and not just using a general purpose tool that may not get you the results that you need. So the key things we want to look at is like, how do we get the maximum efficiency out of the tool? So we want to make sure that it's streamlining our process and it's saving the time for the team and for other resources. We make sure that the quality that we're getting out of it is giving us the highest quality that we can get. So this is a trade-off where you're going to trade between the cost of a specialized tool, but giving you very high quality tailored results versus a lower cost general purpose tool that you really need some expertise to be able to get the best results out of it. And that ties right in with the return on investment of the tool. So if you're short on money, then you can invest more time into the process and use a more general purpose tool. But if you want to be really time efficient, you're going to pay more money for that and dive into using specialized tools. Also the scalability. So how well can this work beyond a single user? So as you're expanding out to rolling it out to your team and scaling up those capabilities, does the tool support those growing demands and the complexity of having multiple people involved in the workflows? And then integration. Does it tie in and talk nicely to the other tools that you have as part of your workflow? Okay. So we're going to talk about three common digital marketing scenarios today. So first is just creating long form content. So these are blogs or articles or other content that you're going to put out and aim for authority that you can then rank within search engines. Then how to create compelling visuals and images for that content. And then finally, once you have the content and visuals available, how do you optimize the page to really get the best results for search engine optimization? So our first task, when we look at long form content, so our objective is to build authority and rank higher in search engine results than competing articles, and then to establish our core audience. So we're really looking at some of the key considerations are, how deep is the content? Does it give us like superficial, like very shallow content, or does it allow us to actually go and do some deeper research and build that into the content as it's being generated? You've probably experienced using ChatGPT or some of the other more general purpose tools. If you don't give it specific instructions, it will write you a nice article. It might be a 500 word or 1,000 word article, but it'll be very superficial and won't give you much content that actually is worthwhile reading. So with the more specialized tools, they'll help to go collect that research, understand some of the keywords that you want to rank for, and will help you build content around that to be able to get a high ranking article. And that ties in with the SEO capabilities. So they're going to integrate some of those SEO best practices in order to build the content around that, rather than write your content, then try and shoehorn the keywords and other SEO aspects into the article afterwards. And customization, you want it to be able to customize your tone and style, different formats. Ideally, there's some templating so that you can quickly get a quick start. With a lot of the more general purpose tools, you're going to end up having to start from scratch or build a custom GPT to give you that kind of capability. But the specialized tools provide that out of the box. And then finally, ease of use. How user-friendly is it? So if your team is not an expert prompter or doesn't have the capabilities to build custom GPTs or similar tools in some of the other general purpose AI tools, then you want something that's just going to streamline and be able to easily take them through the workflow to get the job done. So let's look at 3 common tools. So we've talked about Writesonic in the past. So we'll cover that as one of them. We're also going to talk about ChatGPT 4.0. And then Claude Sonnet 3.5 is the newest version of Claude. And people have been raving about how well it generates content. So those 4 criteria we covered. We'll just go through and talk about these different tools. And then I'd love to hear about some of your experiences with tools. If you've done work with these or others, we can have a bit of a conversation about looking at some other tools. With Writesonic, so as we discovered in previous sessions, it has a nice workflow that takes users through a step-by-step process to build specific content. So it has over 80 different AI writing tools that are part of its tool suite, and then also has specialized templates that allow for specific types of articles to be generated, whether it's social media posts, blog posts, long-form articles, or other types. Whereas ChatGPT and Claude, they have a lot of flexibility, but they don't provide any structure. So you really need to know what it is you're trying to do and have a good prompt that can create that structure for you to allow you to get that depth of content. And also, you need to do your own research to then bring that research into the conversation. It doesn't, it does some, you can do some research from the tools using the Bing browser, but for the most part, you need to provide it as part of the prompting. Hello, Rochelle. Nice to see you.
Hello, sorry. Yes, I'm here. All good.
So then in terms of SEO, so the search engine optimization, Writesonic has some built-in tools and gives insights into some real-time SEO. So as you're looking at what kind of keywords you want to rank for, it can give you some guidance around, what kind of volumes of traffic can you expect from those? How would you rank compared to others? And give some guidance in that space. In terms of ChatGPT and Claude, there's no built-in SEO there. So you're I think there's some ways that you can prompt it, but you're somewhat limited in this. You need to use another tool like SEMrush or some of the other SEO tools to help with that. And then in terms of customization, as we saw with Writesonic, it gives you the ability to add a brand voice. So you can customize and add your tone and style through that, and allows for word length control and adding custom documents. So you can add a knowledge base as part of the templates and the conversations there. And similar with ChatGPT and Claude, you can do the same similar stuff, but again, you have to kind of build your own custom GPT to do it really well, or you're creating a new prompt every time you do this. So you're kind of starting from scratch, and you'd have to bring the prompt and the documents and the brand voice in each time you do a prompt there. So highly customizable, but it requires more starting from scratch each time unless you build that custom GPT. And then in terms of ease of use, this is where Writesonic really shines. It's got a nice user-friendly interface, lots of templates, and it integrates with other tools. So you have a nice workflow that if you're doing this over and over and over again, you can build your workflows to be efficient in the way that you're generating your content. But you're going to pay for that. Like there's a higher cost to Writesonic than these other tools. Whereas ChatGPT and Claude, as I mentioned, they're super flexible, but you have to build all the scaffolding and the workflows yourself through ChatGPT or projects in Claude, or using like structured prompts that you've saved in a file or something. So gives you a sense of like some of the ways to evaluate these tools. So I'd love to hear about your experience with other long form content tools. If you've done this with your own blog creations or article writing, what other tools have you used?
We use Claude almost every day.
And what do you think?
Yeah.
How's your experience been with it?
So I have a woman named Rebecca on my team who does all of our content creation, and I work closely with her, but she manages our social media calendar, does all the posts, writes the blogs, writes a post, and she loves Claude. I'm going to get her to try Writesonic. I'm interested in the built-in SEO tools, and I get her to try it. But yeah, we use Claude right now.
And how do you find, like, I know a lot of people have said that they really prefer Claude, because it has a more natural writing style than ChatGPT. You get a lot less of the kind of AI generated, like those AI words that you are irritating.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what she said. But despite that, and I think this is like always improving too, like compared to before all this, and Rebecca was writing it from scratch because she's like by trade like she writes. And so I definitely still see a difference between when she was writing the articles from like her brain to now. Like the format and the structure of the article is totally different. So it's like she uses Claude, but then it's almost like I worry about people getting too reliant on this and like no longer being able to think for themselves, like seriously, because she should be editing the thing before you post. So what these AI tools often do is there's a lot of summary sentences, and there's a lot of like general motherhood statements that where like when I read what she's written, I'm like, you just said this, like a paragraph, like how is this different from what you just said up here? So we should delete one, like, and so there's a lot of repetition and a lot of summary statements.
Yeah, and especially when you're using ChatGPT and Claude, so I found that you have to write the content in kind of a piecemeal way. So you'll write sections, either paragraphs or sections one at a time. And what it will do is it will often summarize, and you'll get that repetitive opening and closing summary in each section. And so there's a lot of like filler content that's like you said, the motherhood statements and the generalizations. And so when there needs to be kind of a final revision through the whole document to clean that stuff out and be able to have that good content. Now, I'm not sure that Writesonic necessarily does that better, but Rochelle, maybe you can comment on the Writesonic experience.
Yeah, I've used
Writesonic a fair bit, and I think because it really is a marketer's tool, Stephanie, they're focusing a lot more on marketing content. That's kind of been their niche and their focus of who I would say that's their target audience that they serve best. You're still, because you're using AI, you're still going to get a little bit of those motherhood statements, and I think that it's gotten better over time, because I used Writesonic when it sort of first came out, and it was like it took me 5 minutes to do the generation, and then like an hour to edit what it had given me, because there was so much that was generic or repeated that I was like, well, this is not really helpful. It has gotten better, but I do think that one of the things that is critical is to also, in some ways, even with Claude, I've used Claude, you have to start creating things where it's like, do not put in those summary statements, do not do an open and entry, and really being very specific about how you want it to structure things. So one of the things, Stephanie, that I would probably do is maybe even take some of Rebecca's older posts that she wrote herself and put those into either Claude or ChatGPT and ask them for how would you describe this format? And so you actually can have more instructions around what that format is that you actually quite liked, and so just generically, was it, there was an intro, then there was a body piece, and then there was a conclusion or a takeaway, or here's how you can apply it, or here's a call to action. And really being very specific. So I think part of it is also, you were talking about over-reliance on these tools and just kind of getting lazy. I think we need to also be really critical to make sure that the end result delivers what we want. Writesonic is better, but it's still, because it's using the same AI systems, I mean, it's still using the same models as, a ChatGPT. Sometimes what comes back is going to be boilerplate. Because I mean, that's the one thing I've learned. There's a website called like gmtech.com where it costs $20, but you can actually put in a prompt and it'll give you the prompt across all the different models. And what you realize is that pretty much everybody is going to give you the same thing, because they're all using the same training data. And other than a few things, it's not that different from one model to the next.
I'm interested in these SEO tools, though, in Writesonic, because one of the things we want to improve on is visibility of our blog page and increase engagement.
Yes. Yeah. So the SEO tools are great. I mean, they're really helpful to make sure that you have the right keywords in there and all of that. So that is for discoverability. That is why marketers tend to use Writesonic, because it makes sure that it has those keywords sprinkled through the blog post, and related words and everything else. So that makes a big difference. Like not just the same word, but like, similar sort of their syntax and things like that. So yeah.
Okay.
I just want to comment on Claude's. They have a new feature called projects. Projects are the equivalent of a custom GPT. So a couple things you could do there is, as Rochelle mentioned, if you've got custom instructions on the formatting and the tone and style and stuff of the original human-written blog posts, you can use that in a project to guide the generation of the content. And so you can actually use it in two different ways. You can use it to generate, but you can also use it as a reviewing tool to say, generate the content, how he's doing it today, but then put it through that. I'm going to call it a custom GPT just because we all know what that is, but put it through that and say, review this against the way that I like the format and tone and style of the older posts, and provide recommendations on how to update it.
Okay.
That could be an approach that acts as that editor step.
Okay.
A question for you, if you don't mind. Is there any way to get Writesonic, for example? I use Writesonic and I really do like it. Is there any way to get Writesonic to find out what are the most popular posts from our competitors and then write something similar to that post?
Rochelle, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know. Kita, I don't know.
Okay.
Is the honest answer. Yeah, I like. I feel like I've done this before, and I'm just trying to figure out, was it with Writesonic or with a different tool? So that's why I'm trying to remember, because I use too many tools, and sometimes I forget which one was it that I did that with. So let me get back to you on that. I think that's probably the best thing, because I don't want to promise anything that isn't, that isn't appropriate, or that
Okay.
will be done.
No worries. And I'm
As
just
we-
curious. It's not urgent.
We have some other tools we'll talk about as part of the
Nope.
SEO stuff.
Yeah.
And so there might come up in that, because that is one of the evaluation is how do you rank your search engine rank page? So how can you compare against other competitors for those keywords?
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions about the content creation tools? We've evaluated this Writesonic against the general purpose tools. So there's many others, but these criteria are good criteria to kind of look at in terms of how well does this fit into your business and achieve the goals you have. Okay, let's move on. All right, so the second task is creating attention capturing high quality visuals. So there's a fair number of text to image tools. People get mixed results with these. So some of the key considerations you really want to look at is the quality and creativity of the visuals. I'm sure you've seen on social media the kind of generic ChatGPT or DALL generated images that have all the complex AI computer future stuff in the background and a couple people working with a robot. Very cliche type images. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing them. But they're those are kind of the base level. So hopefully we can all strive to be better than that. So we want to produce stunning, eye-catching visuals that really stand out and engage the audience. The other really important piece is speed and efficiency. So if you've done much work with these images, it can be really frustrating to try and get the image that you want. It can be very fast to get an image, but then text, for example, always is garbled, or you don't quite get the right style, or the people don't look right, or whatever it is. So you can end up in this iteration cycle where it just takes a long time to get something that's useful. And then customization options. So how much, if you have an image that you like that you want to start with, can you take that as inspiration and generate images based off of that? How much can you change the visuals to work with your brand aesthetic or your campaign needs? Can you bring in those kinds of constraints and nail down the image to align with those? For example, let's say that you wanted to do a series of images that had the same brand look and feel. It's not easy to do that, to have a common feature all the way through multiple images. If you've tried that, you usually get something that's quite different, and it's hard to make it all work. So let's look at some tools that work in this space. So the three we're going to look at are Adobe Firefly, Midjourney, and DALL. So starting with Adobe Firefly. So in terms of visual appeal, a lot of people really like Adobe. It provides really great detail and resolution for the images, and does a nice job with realistic images for that realism, and also working with product photos. Midjourney is a more artistic, targeted one. It gives more of a stylized image out of it, as opposed to a very realistic, photorealistic image. You get more of the I'll call them glamour shots, where it's got the soft lighting, and you have a bit more of it just doesn't quite look realistic, but can be very beautiful artistic imagery. And then DALL-E is more abstract's not really the right term, but it's more of a creative. It gives you a great sense of a conceptual or imaginative, but doesn't necessarily get, like, again, that realistic view or give you something that's as nailed down. I find that it can be, you'll ask for something like an office scene, people working in an office, and it will create some things that just don't fit in an office. You'll have some stuff that it's put in there. I've had like I asked for a clean and bright office with plants, and it created like a jungle scene in an office. I was like, it's not quite what I was thinking, but kind of go off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that, just to be clear, like, Adobe Firefly comes from the Adobe Creative Suite. So, they're dealing with photographers and Photoshop and, an Illustrator. And so that's probably just thinking about where some of these things came from will give you a better sense of probably what they're good at. Midjourney primarily came out of the gaming world, and video games. So it's very good at, creating like video game environments. And, so if you think about sort of the illustrations and the art that's needed in a video game, that's what Midjourney is best at. Not that it can't do, like, I've seen some amazing photographs, but the prompts are really, really detailed. And, as with anything, the more about what you can communicate, what you're trying to get at, the better the images are. But Midjourney tends to be much more, I'm going to say, like video game quality, if that helps. And DALL-E definitely has this sort of very dreamy, painterly sort of soft edges, and somewhere between an illustration and realism, but somewhere in between. So those are definitely things to keep in mind. The one I also forgot, I meant to mention this yesterday, James, and I apologize. But the one I'm just going to put in the chat for everyone here that I think is really up and coming is Ideogram. And Ideogram.ai is basically an interesting one, largely because it does text quite well. So if you have text and images, it does a much better role. Like, the text is correct, things are spelled properly. But it has some really cool, and I'll try to I'll post it in the WhatsApp discussion group. But you can actually do an image. It'll create an image, and you can actually highlight pieces and say, I like this about the photo, keep this constant, but change everything else. So, if you like, the way someone's sitting, or something like that, they'll keep that constant, and then they'll change the rest of the parts of the room, or so it does a really good job where you can kind of very quickly iterate and almost pick parts of it that work well. So there was a video that I watched where a YouTuber, she did, like, really just played around with it, and I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful if you're willing to iterate and you're like, I like this, but I just want to change all the rest of it, right? So it can do that as well. So it has some good tools around that.
Question.
Great points.
Are these free?
Midjourney is not free. There is no free version on Midjourney. DALL-E, obviously, it does come with a free version, although you're limited, I believe, to how many.
I don't think DALL-E comes in the free version of ChatGPT. I think you have to pay for it.
The Bing Creator powered by DALL-E is still free.
Yes. So Bing. Yeah. So basically, Bing. If you go Bing Creator, that's the way to get around it. So if you want the free version, Stephanie, everyone goes to Bing.
That's the one I use.
Creator or Bing Designer, I think it is.
Yeah.
But the built-in version in ChatGPT is only available with the paid GPT Plus account.
Yeah.
And Adobe's probably not free.
No.
Adobe Firefly, it's funny, it used to be free when it first came out. So I'm not sure if it still is, because I think they were trying to get everyone to know, because everyone was trying to. And Stephanie, I just put in the chat the Bing one, which does use the DALL-E engine to do that.
I'm pretty sure that the pricing model for Adobe is you get some free credits at the beginning to try it, but then you have to pay for your credits once you've generated that.
Right.
And
Okay.
and unfortunately, Midjourney doesn't even have an entry level with free credits. You've got to pay right out the
Pay
gate.
right ahead. And you have to join their Discord channel to it's a Discord, and then eventually they do have actually a web version now, but I think you still have to have a certain number of Discord images first before you get access to that.
And I'm just checking out Adobe right now, and yeah, it looks like you can play around with it a little bit for free. I'm just wondering, do any of these programs have something like for us, for example, we have photos from campsites and they look terrible, like there's a garbage bin or some garbage there. Like, is there anything where we could upload a photo and tell the program, get rid of that piece of garbage there, put a little bit more greenery here?
Yeah.
I have the same issue with headshots of our caregivers. They're like at the beach or like I have the same issue.
So I don't know, James, I don't know which one you use, but
I use the Canva AI. So Canva allows you, Canva AI version allows you to remove backgrounds. It allows you to take text that's generated by one of these tools. So I do this quite often. If DALL has garbled text, it allows you to take that text and keep the same font, but fix the spelling. So you can go in and tweak all of the text that's wrong. Because almost all of these tools have a real challenge making it kind of text or labels in images. So Canva is a nice way to get around that. But it has a whole bunch of capabilities. I think they call it like Canva Magic AI or something.
Yeah. Are you on the pro account or are you on the free account?
It was on the pro account,
Okay.
but there's I don't pay for the pro account all the time. I did a free trial for a while. I think it's 14 days free trial.
Yeah. And I use another, I've used Canva as well, so that works well. And then Geeta and Stephanie, I also use a tool called clipdrop.co. So clipdrop.co, and they have a suite of tools. And what I like about it is they do background removals, they do upscaling. So sometimes you have an image that's actually poor quality and you want it to be actually a higher quality version of the image. So they have a bunch of different sort of tools that you can change the relighting on things. You can extend your images. So it's another sort of something there that I've tried, and they have a free version that I find I use, and I find fairly reasonable to use the free version. I mean, there's obviously a paid version, but I'm just telling you.
And Geeta might be running into this issue as well. But so in our caregiver profiles, we have a spot where they upload the headshot, and it's in our system. No one on my team has time to manually take that photo from every profile and upload it into Canva or whatever. Is there a way, I don't know how, where Canva or whatever tool we're using can integrate with our system so that when the caregiver uploads the shot, it transforms it within our platform? Otherwise, like I'm thinking, do I have to download their headshot and then upload it into Canva, then download it back and upload it back into our platform?
Right. That's just too many steps. No, understood. I know Canva has an API, Stephanie. So I do know that they have an API. So I would assume that you could build that in. But I'm just going to take some notes here, and I'll get back to you on that. It's a good question.
Yeah. The word of warning I would give here is you probably can do it. I don't know that you would get very good results if you tried to automate it, though. I just don't think the tools are at a place where they can automatically do that and have it work well without some human intervention. So somebody's going to have to do a QA check on the outputs of that, and then probably manually put it back through. So if you can get the majority of them to kind of go through smoothly, then I think you'll get a good return on investment of this workflow. But if you have a majority that are not working, then you're probably going to end up just having to go do that process manually anyway.
Maybe I get a student.
So I think it's worth an experiment.
The other option, Stephanie, is especially with the home caregivers, is to just I don't know how easy it would be to have them do that in advance. Just basically provide them with a tool saying, you know, before you do that, we recommend you use these tools as part of the instructions so that they can do it. And then at least they upload a photo that is clean. I know that's a little more work, but basically if you're like, hey, you know, before you upload that picture, you know, we recommend using a clip drop and just removing the background so it looks more professional. Like, give them a reason why that makes sense, and then but give them a solution that they can go and or Canva or whatever, and then they can do that and with the steps to do that, and then you know they can upload it. Gita, yours might be a little harder, but still, again, I think that could be, Stephanie, in your case, that might like kind of shifting it in the short term. I'm just trying to think of an easy way to do that in the short term. You know, shifting that to, because as an individual, it's not as big of a deal for me to do it for myself once. You know, for you at scale, that's a much bigger issue.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
We also have for every listing that's created on our website, it has to come through, well, me for approval. So I wonder if we did use the API off of Canva to clean up a photo, and then that comes to me, and then I can just do a quick review before it goes live.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be the workflow, Gita. If you were to actually use any APIs or automated tools, then I would just recommend that there's someone who does a once over, goes, yeah, that, you know, it didn't crop out like half their face, or you know, or you know, or you know, do something really unruly around what the image should look like. So yeah.
This is a bit of a broader conversation, but when you're looking at building these workflows, a lot of this stuff, like I said, is possible to do, but you want to test it on a small proof of concept. So Stephanie, in your case, if you're using pictures of people and you want to crop out a background, I would start with like, put them in whatever the say 10 images on whatever your platform is, where they're going to be downloaded. Hook up that API to integrate it, and then run them through and see what happens. And if you get decent results with that, then kind of keep scaling it up until you see what happens. You should be able to do that fairly quickly. It's where the proof of concept is nice because it gives you a sense of like, what's it actually going to do? But there's always the trick of going from proof of concept into a production ready system that's reliable most of the time, and building your process around that. And that's where you get into, sometimes, although it's possible to do it, it actually doesn't make business sense because it's too expensive and you don't get a good return on investment of that process. So that was where my word of warning is. It's not so much, can it be done reliably or not? It's more, is it going to be a cost-effective solution in the long run if you have too much human intervention as part of that process? And I should mention, there are companies that are doing this, that are built platforms for doing product imagery. So have a photo of your product. You can put it on any kind of background, and so you can stage it in different scenarios and stuff. So this is quite common. I just don't know how it works for people. So because some of these AI tools have trouble with people. All right, well, we should carry on here. So we kind of talked at a high level here, but I'll cover a little bit about the engagement rates and flexibility and efficiency. So all of these tools, they all provide engaging imagery, but different styles. So Adobe is well suited to photorealistic images, business type imagery. Midjourney is more creative, fantastical, like gaming world stuff. And then DALL is it does cartoony and like graphic art really well, but not so great for some of the other stuff. Efficiency. So Adobe is it integrates into a much broader tool suite, so it allows you to fit together with Photoshop and some of their other tools within their suite. So but when you start stepping into that, it adds a lot of cost. So you're going to need to do a fair amount of volume to make it worthwhile. Midjourney, as Rochelle mentioned, you have to be part of their Discord server, which is a big constraint. lot of people don't like Discord. It's not super user friendly. It's really geared towards like the gaming community, and my kids really like it. They use it as part of all their gaming conversations with their friends, but not everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. And then DALL-E, when you have the paid ChatGPT account, it's integrated there, so it's really convenient. If you're already in the tool, you can just say create an image with this style. So it's nice that it's kind of at your fingertips, and it generates images quickly. So grabbing those and be able to quickly, like, say I need an image like this and throw it into an article. If you don't need like highly specialized images, it can be a nice tool for that. And then in terms of flexibility, Adobe is pretty flexible across things where you need photography style images or office scenes, interior scenes, but it doesn't do a great job with abstract or artistic type concepts. Midjourney is really flexible. It can cover a lot of ground. And as I mentioned, it's really good with realistic and fantastical. So it's like you get really realistic images of people, but then it tends to want to put them into fantasy scenarios and stuff. Midjourney also, it takes quite a bit of skill to prompt it well to get the results you want. So there's this one, there is a bit of a learning curve to really getting great results from that. And then DALL-E is really easy and flexible to use. So you just give it a prompt and gives you lots of different concepts, and it's good for rendering these abstract concepts. It handles text better than the other tools, but it's still not good. You'll get a lot of spelling mistakes or weird characters that are that aren't part of the English alphabet. You get all sorts of interesting symbols and things, but you do get some. You can get some things that are useful if you spend a lot of time at it. All right. Any other questions about image generation before we move on? Okay. All right. Task 3 is SEO. So this goal is here to increase website traffic and rank higher in search engine results than competitors. And so it's really focused on getting that ranking improvement. So the tool should be able to effectively compare your content on how it will rank versus other competing articles with similar keywords. Goal is to focus on getting traffic increase. Ultimately, you want to be top ranked and have more traffic to your website. So it should be really focused on growing organic visitors and recommending content and strategies around how to achieve that. And then we want high quality insights. So it's giving us actionable data-driven insights based on actual data that's out there, as opposed to general, here's SEO best practice. We want it to actually be specific to our scenarios. Okay, so I've got a couple new tools to talk about here. So Surfer SEO is a well-regarded tool in the digital marketing space. This one is a little more expensive than some of the other tools. It's quite specialized for SEO. Jasper AI is a similar product to Writesonic. It's used more in an enterprise environment, whereas Writesonic is more small, medium-sized businesses. So there's a bit of a price difference. Jasper's a bit more expensive on an ongoing basis, but provides more like team management and capabilities for managing across a department. And then ChatGPT, which is the gold standard right now for general purpose chat tools. So for search engine ranking improvement, Surfer SEO provides real-time content optimization. So you can go in and explore, if you're focused on certain keywords, what is like how will you rank against what other top ranking pages are there? So it can give you guidance in terms of how to go tweak your content to improve your results against those pages. And it also gives scoring and keyword density analysis to determine how well you've covered your content. And then there's search engine rank positioning. That's what SERP stands for. That will analyze the competitors on that for those keywords. So really looking at like what is it that you can do to optimize and be able to better compete to move up the page. Jasper AI, it's more, because it's a content generation tool, it's looking at how to incorporate your keywords naturally into the content it's generating. So you give it a set of keywords, it will build it in and sprinkle it through the content, and then also generate SEO-friendly tags and descriptions for your content. And then it's really about optimizing content for readability and user experience. And then your general purpose tools, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, there's nothing built into SEO, so you really need to do it as part of your content generation strategy. So you need to know what keywords you want to have in there. You need to build your prompt to instruct it to add those. So it can work really well if you know how to go about doing this. So if you're an expert copywriter, you're experienced with building keywords and optimizing content, then doing that within the tool is going to be a natural part of how you work. And so that will be part of the prompting process. But if this isn't something that you've used and done before, this is a bit of quite a learning curve to step up and be able to do that effectively. So you'd want to be using the other tools that will provide more guidance. In terms of organic traffic increase, so Surfer SEO is really focused on, it's a tool. It doesn't generate content. It focuses on looking at your content and analyzing and optimizing it. So it's taking that data-driven approach to look through and figure out what pieces need to be adjusted to get best results. And then it can provide guidance around that content, but it's not a writer per se. Whereas Jasper is going to build that right in, so it's part of the process. And then you can also scale up your content production because it's geared towards managing a team. So you can crank up and really generate a lot of content quickly with this tool. And then ChatGPT is really, it's based on the skill of the user. So you can of course create really great content, but depends on how well you use it. And then quality of insights, similar to the other pieces. Your Surfer SEO is giving you that data-driven insight, giving you your rank positioning analysis and competitor comparison, and then it will give you specific recommendations on what to do to improve your results. Jasper is, again, it's not looking at it once it's finished, it's building it in as part of the process. And then ChatGPT is based on the skill of the user. So curious have you guys used any SEO tools for your stuff or any experience here? Rochelle, do you want to jump in with anything?
What I wanted to say is that I have worked with a lot of companies recently who have been I know Surfer SEO from a pricing perspective is probably a little bit more of the premium side, but many people have said that they've been really, really impressed with the increase in traffic and results on the Surfer SEO piece. So, and how that has helped them leverage and literally sort of organic search and get more traffic on the organic side. So, I know it is a little pricey. The results that I've seen have been actually, a lot of people have felt that the ROI is quite good on that. And that's why actually when James and I were talking about the tools, that's the only one that I really recommended, because there are a lot out there for sure. But it is sort of one of the ones that I think is doing a good job with both the AI as well as kind of the the SEO best practices as well. Sort of balancing the two. I think there are a lot of other ones that are making promises that I'm not seeing the results. So, you know, it's just, as you probably have noted, everyone in the SaaS world is adding AI to their offerings. And so now it's just like, oh yeah, we have AI, but they haven't really made the most of it or really incorporated it into their workflows very well. So those are my thoughts.
I'm trying to avoid like using several platforms, and I have to go back to Writesonic because that's what I initially started using for like Instagram and stuff like that. But you had mentioned that the SEO stuff on Writesonic is pretty good.
Yep.
Comparable to Surfer SEO?
I think Surfer SEO is better than Writesonic, but I think I mean, it is better than Writesonic. But again, this is sort of where Geeta, I agree. It's like one tool does a lot of things pretty good, right? And so you just have to worry about one tool. That is also the trade-off of picking what is the right AI tool. Is sometimes it's like I only have time to deal with one, and that's, and so that's the trade-off. You're not getting necessarily best of breed, as we used to say, in terms of like the absolute best, but it will get you really far. And if you're using it, that it's built in, and it's from a time perspective and everything else. So Writesonic, I would say, is a solid B. Surfer SEO is probably more like an A- to an A, right? So it's still really good. It's just not, it's not as focused. It's not that that's not its prime. That is one of the features within all the other things that it does. And so you still may choose to use it because it does a bunch of the other stuff that you need that Surfer SEO doesn't do, right? So I'm not saying don't use it, but these are the trade-offs, and everyone wants like the best of everything, and there isn't one tool that does it all. So
If I understand,
right. Okay.
Yeah, to give you some perspective, like Surfer SEO for the full AI generated tool is over $200 a month for one person. Whereas, Writesonic is less than $20. So is it 10 times better in terms of like how much content are you generating to justify that higher cost? And so that's really what we're talking about here. Like we've looked at some specific tools, but what I really wanted to bring out was what are the criteria we use to evaluate the tools, and what are the trade-offs that we're looking at when looking across these different tools for common tasks. So if you're just starting a business and you have $20 a month for a tool, I would say ChatGPT is going to get you a lot of benefit for $20. Now, Writesonic's kind of in that same price point, but ChatGPT does other things besides just digital marketing tasks. You can use it for a bunch of other aspects in your business, whereas Writesonic isn't as general purpose. So as you look at sometimes you'll end up with like all these different tools, and then your data gets siloed and things. It's often good to start with something general purpose and see what it can do. And then when you have specific tasks, then step into some specialized tools, but evaluate them against each other to see like what are the key criteria that you have for evaluating and what matters. And that's actually a good segue into my last slide here.
I also want to, James, I just want to jump in here and also say that one of the things, or maybe it is a summarization, but the other point that I want to be very aware of, and I think this is something as small businesses we have to be careful about, is being so focused on okay, yes, it's $200 for Surfer SEO, but if that could bring me in this many more customers, and so it's not about the outlay of cost, but it really is that return on investment, right? And yes, I mean, $20, if I can get the same return on investment for $20 versus $200, that's great. But if Surfer SEO can bring in the more targeted customers that I need and do a much better job, even, is it 10 times better? So I often don't like to necessarily just look at the cost, but also look at the ROI. So for me, the ROI is, how many customers would I have to bring in, or how many bookings, Geeta, would I have to do for that to actually be worthwhile, worth the investment, and that I'm starting to see something happen. And, and same thing for probably Writesonic. So it's more that return on that investment. If it can deliver 10 more leads every month, and of those leads, 2 more convert, then, you know, the $200 a month may be like not a write-off, but it's like in the first month, I'm already making my money back, right? Like, I guess that's the other thing, is that I think the small business owners, sometimes we're so focused on the costs and the expense that we're not really thinking about the upside of, like, if the business actually grows and we do a lot better, you know, and I know that's an if, but it's like that is, I think sometimes that, and I know it myself. So I say this, I'm not saying this to anyone in particular. I'm not trying to like, even myself, I often am like, oh, do I want to spend $50? And I'm like, but if I can get, you know, a bunch of new clients, or, you know, more pre-up parents, or more tutors, and, or, you know, work better with school boards, or whatever it is, you know, is that $50 really as much of an issue as I'm making it out to be, right? So I just wanted to sort of highlight that from a small business perspective, largely because I know sometimes we can get stuck in that rut a little bit ourselves. And, you know, and again, I fully put myself in that same bucket. So I'm not just talking to you. Priya, you're smiling.
Yeah, great point. So
Yeah, no, because I'm always like, what if it doesn't work?
That's the thing, is that we were so focused
You
on,
know,
like, the
so
bad, like the downside, that we don't actually think about the upside.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, is
I
sometimes
know,
I actually go, okay, like, well, like, this is an experiment, and this is that experimental sort of mindset where it's like, okay, well, a lot of these, it's like, yeah, it's $200 a month. Maybe I'll spend $200 in a month and see if it does anything. Like, okay, worst case scenario, it's $200.
I know. Yeah,
Like,
it's a really good reminder, because how far can we grow if we're just trying to pinch our 20,
yeah, like, if
you
you're
know?
going for like the
but-
lowest budget, you're trying to like stretch your dollars, you may actually be shooting yourself in the foot by trying to go the cheap route, as opposed to, you know, taking a much sort of more customized, bespoke solution. And that may actually, like, you know, literally hit a tipping point that gets you to where you need to go faster, right? The other thing I really try to remind myself is, you know, $200, you know, 1 month, 2 months, you like put a limit on, like, how long are you going to give that a try, and then see the results. Or, you know, like, do 1 month of Writesonic, everything on Writesonic, look at the data, look at who's coming in, look what it's delivering, and then do 1 month of SEO Surfer and do the same thing and look at the same sort of results and see how well it did, right? So you can turn all this stuff off usually in a month. So you don't have to, like, think about, oh my gosh, that's $1,200 a year, or $2,400 a year.
Yeah.
Just do a month to month. And even if the month is higher, like, I often will do a higher, like, the monthly costs are often higher than annual. That's okay. You know, but then I know I can just turn it off and do that comparison.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry.
I just want to
James,
add, I just want
yeah.
to add that I used, so I completely agree, and thank you so much. We need that reminder a lot. But also I used Otter AI with my existing content, and then I used Jasper AI to create content for the existing content. And I'm still ranking for, this is 2 years later that I'm ranking #1 under neurodivergent tutor in Canada. So I love it. And now I just want to do it for ADHD and for the other pages that I'm building. So I'm really excited because it's proved it's worked. It's worked for so long. I thought maybe it'll only work for a couple months, but it's continued to work.
Yeah. And that is the one thing about SEO, is that SEO has long-term benefits. If you rank well for keywords and that organic traffic happens and people continue to read that blog post or read that piece of content or download that guide that you've created, you know, that reinforces the way Google search engine works. Is it reinforces the more people who click on it, the more Google knows that that content matches that search term, the more people will see it, the more people will click on it. And it's like this cycle, right? So the way that it actually works is, if I type in something and I click on it and so do 1,000 other people, Google goes, wow, this content clearly matches the needs of anyone who types in that sort of phrase or keyword. So, and over time, it just reinforces itself, because the more you're on top, and it is also why it's also hard sometimes to get to the top, because whoever is on top has that engine going, right? And yeah, and to displace them, you have to come up with something kind of new that hopefully meets people's needs or answers questions in a better way. Those queries, the search queries. Yeah.
Oh, great points there. And so when this is really the key slide I wanted to get to, was the strategic consideration when you're evaluating these tools. So having a clear sense of what is your goals that you're trying to achieve. Is it about optimizing an existing process, so streamlining it, reducing the cost of delivery? Or is it about more effective outcomes, so increasing quality or increasing sales or leads or whatever? You're going to evaluate the tools very differently depending on which of those goals you have. Then as you're looking at that evaluation, you also want to then pick, like, what are the actual criteria you're going to use to measure and compare the tools relative to each other. So we chose a few here as kind of common criteria, but when you're doing an assessment, so what I would encourage you is when you're like, I need a better tool for content creation, and you go and you do your Google search and you get your results at the top and it says, here's 12 AI tools for content generation. You're going to want to be able to go and say, well, what are the criteria that matter to me to achieve my business goals? And then put those in and look at the evaluation from that perspective. And I really like tools like Perplexity to help with this, because you can go in and say, compare this option, and this option against these 5 criteria, and it will actually go do an evaluation for you, and it will give you that criteria. So that can be a really fast way to assess things. And then you're going to really be looking at, there's a trade-off between the cost of the tool, the functionality it gives you, and how well it integrates into your workflows. So you may find like a really cheap and cheerful tool, but it requires a lot of like hand-holding manual work to take it through your business workflows, which may end up costing a lot more in terms of your time or your employees' time than just buying a much more expensive tool, and it does it all for you because it integrates and talks to all the various parts of your business. And then also this one's something that's a longer horizon perspective, but it's looking at like, what are the trends that are coming in digital marketing? So what new tools are coming out? What stuff is changing? Like, we're in a time of a lot of uncertainty around what's possible, what new capabilities are emerging. So there's a need, even though you might have something that works great for you, watching these new emerging tools is worthwhile, and just keeping on top of those trends that are going on. Okay, well, I hope you found this session helpful in terms of some introduction to tools, and then also how to evaluate them. And yeah, we look forward to our next session next week. Any questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, sorry, one last quick question, James. Now we're not talking SEO, we're talking about like open rates, click-through rates with newsletters. Just which one of these platforms would you recommend for a newsletter?
Are you talking about like well, I think a lot of them will work for the content. For the measuring results, like the analytics, I'm not sure that any of them will really help with that, because that's more tied to your email lists and
to your email server. So Ita, in terms of getting the email open rates and a variety of other things, that's not necessarily SEO. That's more making sure that you have compelling subject lines and, right. So in some ways it's a different evaluation criteria for email versus the SEO is matching keywords to search queries in a search engine. Email yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, this is similar to social media. You want to have that nice opening hook and grab people with the compelling content. This will help with the content, but not necessarily how do you measure that effectiveness, and how do you compare it to different options? They don't really do that. Rochelle, are you familiar with any tools that can help in that space?
I was just trying to think of who do I know in the email marketing space that I think is doing a really good job. There are a few, I'll have to get back to you again, Geeta, on that, just because I like, there are a few that I've used, but I'm not sure who's doing it in the AI space, which is an interesting, you know.
Yeah, no
Free
worries.
right back.
We use mail.
If the call's ended by the time I get back, don't worry about it. I'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Sorry,
Go, Geeta.
I was just going to quickly say, we use MailChimp. Maybe it's worth my reaching out to MailChimp and be like, hey, maybe this is your responsibility to help us rank
So
better.
MailChimp definitely has some AI stuff, and they have some tools that they're building into their services already, Geeta, to, you know, give you better subject lines, more compelling content, more better calls to actions and things like that. So I would definitely take a look at MailChimp to see what tools they're providing, because they are adding that to the tools that they have. And that's their business, right? Their business is email marketing, and they want you to be successful with email marketing. I feel like I've seen something, and I just can't remember who it was that was doing something very specifically around email optimization and marketing and stuff like that. So let me just look at my notes, and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, no worries. Thanks a lot.
Mhm.
Thank you for today's presentation. It was great.
Good, great. Enjoy.
Thank you.
All right.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.